Good evening, everybody. We are live on Facebook. We haven't done this in a while. This evening we're having a conversation with Ms Situkutezi. She's not new to this page and the conversations that we've had with her. It is now 12 minutes past 7 and we'll start at quarter past as scheduled. But I hope everybody's well and everyone's ready. Let's see where Ms Situkutezi is. Hello, ma'am, Situkutezi.
My volume, why is it so soft?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, how are you doing?
I'm good, sir. How are you?
Well, it's been a while.
It's been a while. We're growing a mustache.
Well, I'm growing it for November, you know, representing men's wellness and prostate
Okay.
cancer awareness. Yeah, I can't actually wait. What's it, the 23rd now? So I'll be able to get rid of it in about 7 days or so.
7 days.
Yeah.
Yep.
Hi, Karen. Good evening. We're also very excited. We haven't done this in a while, Ms Situkutezi.
In a while. It's
Yeah. I think we stopped doing this when we had
load shedding.
stage 6 load shedding, and like you didn't have internet at this time of the evening. Okay, it is quarter past. Ms Situkutezi,
Use the stage.
are you still there?
Yes, sir. I'm still here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Okay, it's quarter past 7, so let's get started. For those of you that don't know, my name is Win Haupt. I am a school principal. I run this Facebook group. And with me today I have Ms Situkutezi. I've had the pleasure of being Ms Situkutezi's leader and school principal for 3 years. And she's joining us this evening to have a conversation around CFU. She'll tell us what CFU stands for. But Ms Situkutezi, do you just want to take a second and tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're currently teaching, what are you teaching, what environment are you teaching in, what excites you about education and what you do. Tell us a bit about yourself.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. Excited to be back. So I'm Ms Situkutezi. I'm a 28-year-old teaching for 5 years now in a very challenging community where learners are facing a lot of challenges on a daily basis. And I am very passionate about teaching as well as the well-being of learners. So yeah, in a nutshell, that is me.
So, ma'am Situkutezi is very modest. So she does work on the Cape Flats. But the reason why I like speaking to Ms Situkutezi is because it doesn't matter where she's teaching, her standards remain high for her learners. And I think that she's got really good skills around ensuring that learning is taking place in the classroom, and that's what she's going to share with us today. So the conversation that we're having today is around CFU, and CFU.
My network.
And CFU stands for Checking for Understanding. And there's a quote that I've read from a book that I've read a couple of times called Leverage Leadership. And the sentence from there says, effective instruction is not about whether we taught it, it's about whether the learners learned it. And I only sort of became mindful around this later in my career. I wish I had been more intentional about it when I was still teaching. But it made a lot of sense to me, is that our jobs are not about whether we are teaching it, it's about whether the learners are actually learning what we are teaching. And checking for understanding is checking whether learning is taking place. Busy teaching, one of the things that really frustrated me was that I would teach a concept, the learners would write a test or an assessment, the learners maybe didn't perform very well, and I was extremely disappointed in it. But at that stage, it was very late to go and fix the problems or the misconceptions that learners had had. And if I had a better mindset around checking whether learning is taking place, things could have happened a lot differently. So there's something that I've seen Ms Situkutezi do very well in her classroom, and that's why I invited her to have a chat with us around this today. So let's start off, Ms Situkutezi, and tell us, what does checking for understanding mean to you on a daily basis at school? Ms Situkutezi, are you there?
I'm not sure. You're breaking, Mr. Haupt. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now, yeah? It seems like Ms Situkutezi is maybe having some network issues. I'm going to give it a second to see if it can sort itself out. Okay. I'm sure she'll come back on when the network comes back on. So I think a couple of things are extremely important about checking for. Okay, yeah, she's back.
Are we back?
Okay, there we go.
There we
So
go.
I did give a bit of an introduction, Ms Situkutezi. I'm not sure how much you heard, but you want to tell us what checking for understanding means to you on a daily basis.
So basically, check for understanding is the act of intentionally and continuously checking that learners are learning what is being taught while it is being taught. So check for understanding means for me, are my learners learning while I'm teaching? And this is also just to set them up for the upcoming activity that you have prepared for them, or maybe like an assessment that you have prepared for them. But also we tend to find out only at the end of the assessment when we are marking, oh, but my kids actually didn't get to that step when I was teaching it. But check for understanding means you actually check before they even get to that assessment or activity to make sure that they will be able to succeed in completing the activity that you have prepared for them.
Yeah. I think the main thing there is that you're setting up the kids to succeed. Because
Yeah.
sometimes we teach and we say things and we're not sure whether the learners has grasped what we said. And then we give them a task to do, we give them homework to do. And then they sit there lost, and then and then the behavioral issues start. It is not so much that they want to behave in a certain way. It's sometimes that we have lost them. Yeah, and they're frustrated. So there are many techniques that can be used for checking for understanding and checking whether learning is happening. Which one do you use the most, and explain to us how you use it to achieve the goal of checking for understanding?
So I mostly use whiteboards. It's a little A4 whiteboards with whiteboard markers to check for understanding. So basically on these whiteboards, learners you would ask them a question after you've taught, you ask them a question, they write it on these whiteboards, and then you quickly ask them to show. And then that is actually how you quickly check for understanding in the classroom, whether it is now time for me to carry on, do they get it, or is it opportunity for me to do a quick reteach, because now I can see based on the data that they show up in the class, I can see, okay, 20% of them have it, 80% of them don't. So that is now an opportunity for you as an educator to then decide, okay, do I do a whole class reteach? Do I only focus on that 20? So that is how that is what the technique that I use to check for understanding is the whiteboards, and that is how I use it.
And what you're also doing is you are collecting data, so that you can make a decision.
Yes.
If the data says 80% of the learners have grasped the concept and the responses that they are giving back to you shows that they understand what was taught, I can carry on and I can maybe reteach that four or five kids that maybe didn't. But if only 20% of them are getting it right, I know I cannot carry on. I need to make sure maybe
it's a whole class reteach.
Yeah. So explain to us how is there a specific part in the lesson where you use this technique that makes it most effective?
Definitely. So there's three parts to a lesson called the I do, the we do, and the you do. So the check for understanding is mostly effective in the we do part. So the I do is basically where you as an educator, you teach the skill, you show them what to do, you demonstrate the steps of what it is that they need to do. And then when we get to the we do, that is when you do it together. So now this is the part where you do most of the check for understanding, because you've taught it. Now you want to see whether they can give you back what you have demonstrated and showed them. So in most cases, the check for understanding would be used in the we do part of the lesson.
Okay. Explain to us how it works, what it looks and feels like when you are executing this specific technique for checking for understanding using the whiteboards.
Whiteboards. So let's say, for example, so I teach, one of my subjects that I teach in grade 6 is mathematics. So let's say, for example, you've just explained and you've showed the learners how to, for example, multiply a 4-digit by a 3-digit number. During the I do, you've shown them the steps of what they need to do. You've explained all the steps. Now you want to know whether they'll be able to confidently complete the activity or the task that you have prepared for them based on what you've taught. So because they need to then complete a you do activity, which is the independent practice. So each learner in my classroom would normally sit with a whiteboard and a whiteboard marker in front of them. So I would, it would go look something like this. Right, grade 6s, it is now your turn to show me how to multiply a 4-digit number by a 3-digit number. Okay, you are going to do this by writing it on your whiteboards. Okay, then please take out your whiteboards and your whiteboard marker in the next 3 seconds. This also allows them to get ready for you just that time. If the whiteboards are in front of them, just that 3 seconds to think, okay, now we are getting to, I need to show Miss what she has demonstrated before. And then look at number 3 on the board. On your whiteboards, do the first step that I showed you on how to multiply a 4-digit by a 3-digit number. Okay, Amira, please remind us, what is the first step when we are multiplying a 4-digit by a 3-digit number? And in this case, you are also just checking whether they can remember what those steps are before we even get to those whiteboards. You are reminding them, okay, think about that first step by asking one of the learners to first verbalize it, and then now we're going to write it on the whiteboards. So Amira responds, well done, Amira. Now in 3, 2, 1, write. Very important when we're using check for understanding. It's not a lengthy activity. You don't give them 5 minutes to do that. It's just a mere of 10 seconds at most. At most, I give 10 seconds. So when you say write, then you say, you count down from 10 to 1 again, close your whiteboard markers, put it down. Once they've done that, obviously on the whiteboards, it's only that first step that they've written there, and then you ask them, lift up and show. And it's very important when you're also asking them to lift up and show that that routine you've explained to them before, because in most cases, some learners would then lift up their whiteboards and they would be checking other learners' answers. So what I do in my class is lift up and show, and they know once those boards are up, you are tracking me. Wherever I am in the classroom, that is where your whiteboard is facing, and that is where your face is also facing. And we're lifting up with both hands. You don't want them lifting up like this, because then the whiteboard is hanging over there. So you want them to lift up, and you want them to be sitting up straight, and they're tracking you. And then when they've done that, you quickly scan the classroom, you scan those answers, and then you ask them to put it down. So that is how it works. And it really feels great, because that is the opportunity that you get as an educator to know whether my kids actually understand, and teaching those skills step by step. I wouldn't say on the whiteboard, multiply that 4-digit number by the 3-digit number. We will do it step by step until they get to the final answer. If I know, okay, step 2 is what they don't understand, and that is what I need to reteach, I stop right there, and that is what I go back to the example that I've done in class, and I reteach that, and then we continue.
There's a few things that I pick up from what you said now. What I like about that technique of using this whiteboard for the learners to respond is, number one, is that the learners can't hide. I think sometimes in a classroom scenario, you find that learners lack confidence. They're not sure of their thought process. They're not sure whether they understand it properly. So they can be a little anxious. They can be scared. You know, there's a bit of peer pressure. But because all the kids are tracking you and they're facing to you, you're the only one that can see those responses. So you're making sure that you are getting a holistic response.
From everyone.
So I really like that aspect of it. But other thing that I picked up from what you said is that if the majority of the kids getting a question wrong, you can then ask them a simpler question and then see how they do, so you can actually see where the problem is.
Yeah.
And if all the learners get the question right, it also gives you an opportunity to ask a more higher order question, so that you can challenge them as well. So you can sort of also fluctuate where do you pose the question in terms of its level, because okay, they're not getting it, so let me see where they're not getting it. They're getting it, if I can push them as well.
Yeah.
You also mentioned that there's very clear routines, and it seems like for this technique to work, learners need to know what their expectations are. So I can imagine there are some very clear routines that need to be in place to make this productive and informative for you. What are those routines? What is the discussion like with the kids before you do something like this?
So basically, the discussion before we even do something like this, it starts with in the I do already. Just before you even introduce your lesson, you tell them exactly what is going to happen, because the I do will then lead to the we do, where you're going to check for understanding. So they need to know that I need to be focused and I need to pay attention in the I do already, because when we get to the we do, my educator is going to check whether I've learned what was being taught. So what I normally do, I would introduce the lesson and I will give them the lesson outcomes. This is what I want you to be able to do at the end of the lesson. So I'm going to do these 2 examples. You're going to watch, you're going to listen. I'm going to do it. So now you also, those that were maybe not listening, they're like, oh, we need to listen now. So you tell them that I'm going to explain those, but then when we get to these 3 examples, I want you to show me how it's done. So now you also have the attention, because none of them want to be on those whiteboards and be getting it wrong. So now immediately before you even start your lesson, you already have the attention. You already know that they are here to learn. They're going to learn what it is that you are teaching them. And obviously just how you also structure when you are busy with the check of understanding. So what I do in my class, they know that those whiteboards, when they walk into class, they're already on the tables with the whiteboard markers. When it's time to work with them, they know they only write on those whiteboards when I say write. They only open those cookies when I say they must open them. So I mean, it doesn't take one day. It does take a practice and reminding them every day, just because you will get those learners that will, even though you told them 2 hands up, you will get those that will have 1 hand, and then you just remind them by using positive narration. Well done to those of you who are having your whiteboards with 2 hands up, and those of you who are tracking me. And without you even having to go to that child, they will know, okay, this is what I need to do. So those are the routines, and they know 10 seconds to write. So they know immediately once it's open, once I say write, we are writing, because it's countdown. In a few seconds, we'll need to show. And then they put it down again. So that those are the routines and the thinking around it as well. So it gives no opportunities for learners to be misbehaving and be doing something other than what we need to do in class.
Yeah. It speaks to that key of accountability, because the learners know they're going to have to perform in some way and give a response in some way. So you're grasping their attention very quickly and early in the lesson as well. And I think, and you will be testament to that, is that you need to be consistent in the way you execute that particular check for understanding using the whiteboards. Because we know our kids, they start hitting each other with whiteboards. They start doing messages on the whiteboard, start to show their pens. So just that clear routines, that clear expectations with the learners. You put the cap back on your coke and you put it down, and the learners know that's what the expectation is. So it also comes with the need of really clear routines. I see Rome wasn't built in a day, and I know that Ms Daisy didn't introduce this one day, and the learners just knew how to do it, but it did take some time. But the outcome outweighs the effort to make it part of the culture in your classroom.
Definitely.
So a lot of the time we speak about class, and we speak about performance in class, and we speak about how we experience a class and a lesson and a group of kids. What is the feedback you have gotten from learners when you use the check for understanding using a whiteboard? What have they said to you about this technique that you use?
So one thing about this technique, learners really enjoy working on those whiteboards, because I mean, when you sit in a classroom, they're expected to write in notebooks. Every subject we write in notebooks. So the whiteboards bring a little bit of fun and something exciting in the classroom. So most of the learners would tell me, Miss, I actually enjoy writing on the whiteboards. Miss, I understand the work even better when we first practice on the whiteboards. And sometimes when you tell them, and that is also part of the routine part of it. So they know if you are not doing what you're supposed to do on those whiteboards, you don't get to use them. And that is what they don't want. They don't want to lose using those whiteboards, because it is something fun for them, something exciting within the classroom, looking forward to writing on those whiteboards. But most importantly, they're looking forward to getting it right. Even if how many times I'm going to have to lift up my board, I know that we're going to put them back on. It's going to be explained, and I will get that opportunity to get it right. So that is the kind of feedback that I get from the learners for those the use of whiteboards. It's exciting, it's overwhelming, but most importantly, it's fun.
Yeah. So I know that those whiteboards are not cheap, and I know that not all schools would have the resources in order to purchase them. And although teachers are a special breed in that they use a lot of their salary from time to time to buy stationery for their classes, is there an affordable way to implement this particular technique for you to constantly check for understanding using learner responses?
Yep, definitely there is. So if you don't have those whiteboards, A4 copy paper, laminated, also does. So that is what the other classes use at my school. Who do not have whiteboards. They would use white paper, and then we just laminate those white papers, and that would serve as the whiteboard. But sometimes also you can use that paper as is, and you let them write. And what's also nice is you ask them to paste it in the books, so that whichever mistake that they've made when we're checking for understanding, they can always refer back to it and to remember, oh, but that is where I made a mistake, and that is how I fixed that mistake. So that is also something I do sometimes when we don't use the whiteboards. When I wanted to be stuck in the books, I would use copy paper, let them write, show up, and then we paste it in the books.
I think the main thing about today's discussion is just about the mindset of the teacher, in terms of, it's not about whether we taught it. It's not about our beautiful PowerPoint presentations. It is not
Yes.
about the posters that we create. Those things are very important and they're mechanisms. But the most important thing is whether the learner has actually grasped what you have taught. You know, you can spend so much time sourcing videos, you can spend so much time creating PowerPoints, which is great. People should never stop doing it. But there's an element, I think, that we all need to add to our teaching, and that is checking for
For
understanding.
understanding. Yeah.
Checking for understanding, and then use the data you get back to make decisions. Do I need to reteach it?
Yes.
Can I make it more complex? And can I move on? And checking for understanding is not something that you stand in front of your class and decide to do. It actually gets incorporated into your planning. So when you're planning that lesson, you are planning, you're checking for understanding and how and when it will happen within that lesson.
Within
You're
that
choosing
lesson.
which strategic questions am I going to ask to check for understanding. Because I'm not going to make it an easy question and I'm not going to make it a hard question. I'm going to make it sort of a middle ground question, see where the kids are at, and then move from there. So it's really a mindset thing. Check for understanding, because it's almost like you're wasting all your time teaching if the learners are not grasping and mastering what we're trying to teach them. Ms Situkutezi, got any additional comments for us?
This technique also really helps with classroom management. And I would just like to say, like I said before, obviously it doesn't happen over a day. It does take practice, but it is possible, and there are results from it. Be consistent and create that safe environment for learners to feel that they belong within the classroom. Because I mean, you do get your learners that have barriers to learning, that are not comfortable in voicing out, that are not comfortable in giving answers. And by you as the educator creating that space that we are all here to learn. Even myself, sometimes when I introduce these things, I would deliberately make a mistake and I would show them, do you understand that I'm also here, I'm also learning, just to get those ones that would, like you said, Mr. Haupt, that would hide, that would normally not be confident enough to say anything in the classroom. But with this, I mean, I don't have any learner in my classroom, even those with barriers, that do not lift up and show when we do the video of the lesson. It's just the consistency, creating that environment for your learners to thrive. And yeah, enjoy the holidays.
Yeah. Just one last thing, like one of the reasons why I make these videos and why I ask people to join the conversation around this, around things that pertain to teachers and to teaching, is really because I want to build the confidence of the teacher, build the confidence for them to walk into a classroom and know that they have a plan, know that they have the skills to execute the plan. The definition of confidence is an individual's belief that he or she has the necessary skills to produce a desired outcome. How many times are we sent for PDs? How many times does the department create opportunities for PDs? How many times do schools create opportunities for PDs? Some schools are fortunate enough to have coaches that are upskilling staff. But I think the key word in that definition of confidence is making sure that you have the necessary skills. The skill give you the confidence. And sometimes we will look for a quick fix. We have discipline issues. What's the quick fix for it? You know, there's no quick fix. It's using the strategy that Ms Situkutezi explained today, and that creates a culture and that creates a disciplined environment because learners are consistently engaging because they know the point of accountability that's coming. So in order for you to build your confidence as an educator and achieving your goals as an educator, being motivated and reaching those heights that you want to reach, you need to build the confidence, but the skills that you possess is going to give you that confidence.
Yes.
And that's where I want to leave you today. Thank you very much, Ms Situkutezi. Say hello to all my kids in your class there, and colleagues that I truly miss. Hopefully I will come and visit very soon. Thank you to everybody that joined the conversation. Ma'am Primrose, thank you so much for your engagement this evening. We really appreciate it. And we'll see each other soon.
Thank you, Mr. Huff. Bye.
Bye-bye.